Hello everyone, I'm Heidi Schiller from North Vancouver City Library, and I will be presenting on chick lit, which I think might possibly be the arch opposite of noir. And I'm hoping that my slides sort of demonstrate that compared to the dark noir and the pink polka dot slides. So I'm just going to start with some definitions of chick lit. Chick lit is defined as a genre that addresses issues of modern womanhood, often humorously and lightheartedly. Although it sometimes includes romantic elements, chick lit is generally not considered a direct subcategory of the romance genre. And that's because the heroine's relationship with her family and friends is oftentimes just as important, if not more important, than her romantic love interest relationships. So elements of a chick lit novel include the contemporary world. Most are set in the modern day, and most are set in a big city, an urban environment. They usually involve tales of 20 and 30-something women who are trying to make their way in the job market despite heartache and rampant spending. Usually the covers are highly identifiable with bright colors, and they usually have cartoonish, feminine pop art sensibilities, as you can see from the covers behind me. There's usually lots of details about fashion designers, important fashion labels, lots of shoes, lots of scenes involving shopping, and also sort of trendy places, restaurants, and hot spots. Usually readers of chick lit really like to see sort of the exciting world that their heroines are living in. Occasionally there are issues of class that come up, and the nice thing about chick lit is that many of the titles are made into romantic comedy movies, and so you don't actually have to read them. You can just spend 2 hours watching them. Chick lit, sort of as a term, gained traction in the early to mid-90s. In 1995, a pair of academics used the term for the first time in one of their anthologies of women's fiction called Chick Lit Post-Feminist Fiction. Then in 1996, a New Yorker reporter described what he called the trend of girlishness evident in the writing of female newspaper columnists of the time, chick lit. These three covers represent the three titles that are sort of the earliest instances of chick lit. So there's Candace Bushnell's Sex and the City, Melissa Banks' The Girl's Guide to Hunting and Fishing, and Helen Fielding's Bridget Jones's Diary. And of course, the first and the third have movies. You don't have to read them. But The Girl's Guide to Hunting and Fishing is actually a really great book. It's slightly more, I think, sophisticated in its writing style than the other two. In 2008, the Publishers Weekly writer suggested that the definition of what's considered to be within the genre of chick lit has become more accomplished and grown up. However, recently, some people have declared that chick lit is dead, and that it's not a term that's economically viable anymore for publishers to use. Instead, they're using terms like women's commercial fiction or contemporary romance. And the reason for that is that some speculate the economic downturn, that there has been a backlash against the term because it's associated with materialism and consumerism, and that's just not trendy anymore. There's also been suggestions that the rise in popularity of YA novels like Twilight and The Hunger Games have sort of replaced the appeal of chick lit. Also, the new adult genre, which someone is talking about. Tanya, right? Okay. So some of the important authors and titles in this genre are up here on this slide. Right in the middle there, you can see Jane Green and Marian Keyes. They both have tons of chick lit titles. Then there's also Jennifer Weiner, who again writes chick lit titles that might be considered slightly more sophisticated than some of those other ones that straddle the line between chick lit and women's fiction. There's also Plum Sykes, who wrote Bergdorf Blondes, which might be one of the frothiest of the chick lit titles. There's also, of course, the Sophie Kinsella Shopaholic series. Again, there's a movie that you can watch. And those are really fun. She's a really good writer, very humorous, but these are just really, really light, fun beach reading titles. Some of the newer entries into the genre include things like The List by Karen Tanabe. This one, I think, reflects the Publishers Weekly editor who said that chick lit is getting to be slightly more accomplished and grown up. It's about a woman who is a reporter for a sort of Politico-esque blog in Washington, D.C., and she gets embroiled in this investigative reporting story. But of course, there's also the romance, the shopping, the shoes, all of that. There's a new book called Someday, Someday Maybe by Lauren Graham, who is actually an actress on the Gilmore Girls, and this is sort of a semi-autobiographical novel that she's written. And then there's the Meg Cabot series. She wrote I think it's the Pretty Little Liars, or the Princess Diaries. She wrote the Princess Diaries. And now she has an adult series called Size 12 and Ready to Rock. And then Erin Duffy has written a book called Bond Girl, which is a sort of a Wall Street chick lit-esque book. And those are kind of the main ones. There's also Emily Giffen, who wrote Something Borrowed, also a movie that you can watch. And who else here? Cecilia Ahern is another big name. And really, you can pretty easily identify these novels because their covers are all very pink and very pretty and very sort of light and upbeat. I think that's all I have. I think I'm way under 10 minutes. So I have printed out resources for you. They're on the handout. If you haven't gotten them, all of the handouts for all of our presentations are over on that table. Thank you very much.